It's 2024, and against all odds, Manor is coming at the end of this month. All it took was a great idea, crazy details, huge hype, and some interesting execution to build a title that has become one of the most wishlisted games of all time on Steam. Now, with a huge backing of a publisher in Hooded Horse, grants from Epic Games themselves, the budget has gone from something that was a single-player project to now somewhat of a studio endeavor. So, before the game comes out at the end of the month, I thought I'd sit down and put together everything you need to know, whether you followed it from the very beginning or you're just getting into the title right now. This is the entirety of Manor. The initial reveal came back in 2020, showing a new city builder with pristine road building, production of a medieval village, diplomacy and trading with some hints of warfare and RTS combat. The first conceptions somewhat confused people. People thought it was similar to a Total War game, but then it was revealed that actually the main focus was on this village and town production more than anything. But with the medieval RTS combat, it at least gave a hint that this could somewhat fill a hole of what the Total War franchise has lacked in the last decade. In Manor, though, authenticity is key. With Slavic Magic, the lead developer and the person that started this all, said they really wanted to keep it as historically accurate, yet making sure the focus is on gameplay at the same time, finding that balance between what would work and what's actually fun to play. Buildings, clothing, even farming techniques are designed to reflect that period accurately. There's a lot of attention to detail on social hierarchy and different roles and classes within your villages. For example, you can put down hunting shacks where your hunters will go and find deer, so on and so forth, and you can indicate exactly where you want them to go and do such a thing. There will also be tanners and miners. All of them feel so immersed within this world. I would spend hours and hours sitting there just watching these guys during the demo. And this kind of thing is what really authenticates this historical simulation. As a lord, you'll be overseeing the daily lives of all these villagers, or should I say, as a manor lord. From peasants tilling the fields to craftsmen honing their trades, every character within this has a role that contributes to the community, and all of them have their own names, skills, needs, and wants. It is so detailed down to those minute levels, so you can macro manage everything from over the top as the lord, putting down production, facilities, roads, so on and so forth. Or you can actually go and follow the lives of these individuals that start to grow within this ever-changing village. There's a lot of balancing that needs to be done with the needs of your people though, with food resources, building materials, and of course money. Trading is something that we'll get onto in a little bit, but it is an important part. But this all stems from the initial resource management of your villages, making sure that you don't just have enough food, water, bedding, firewood for the people within your village, but also the chance to grow it. People will constantly be coming in if you have the facilities, building new homes, and of course, you need more population in order to grow and expand. This expansion will come with a few difficulties, not just keeping up with resources, but of course, the physical space that is taken up, finding the correct places to put towns, and of course, then your resource plots. You can build more fortifications and manors in order to protect people, and eventually, what will be coming in the full version of Manor, recruit them into military, something that I'll be touching on very shortly. But focusing on all these elements, Manor doesn't just simulate the medieval architecture or warfare within this time. It simulates all the challenges and intricacies that the environment or other people will find, whether it's being attacked by bandits, whether it's disorder within your village itself, or people starting to starve. And that's not to mention the chance of possible infection running rife through it. So it is you to be the leader, to see the village thrive under that guidance, and that's where the main challenge comes in. But let's talk a little bit more about this production system. There are specialized buildings for pretty much everything and every mechanic within the game. Whether it's blacksmiths to make weapons, or tanneries to make clothing and leather goods, even mills for processing grain, and they all are linked in some way. Putting down houses in order for people to live in, then putting down woodcutters in order to get firewood so they don't go cold. Now we need food. Okay, so let's build some farms. People start to work on the farms. We get oxen from trading or from the cattle sheds. They can then come and work on said farms in order to plow. Once the harvest is done, we now need a mill in order to grind the grain into flour. Then that can be taken to the bakery to make bread, and there we have it. People are now fed. This whole process and this chain link of mechanics is what makes titles like this very satisfying, and I think Manor has done it really well. So far, all we've had are a few trailers, and of course, the demo that I played too many hours of a couple of years back but this was all within the game at that point in time, and it's only going to be expanded within the full release. When it comes to craftsmen, it works a little bit the same, whether you've got woodcutters or hunters getting the raw resources, whether it's leather, wood, so on and so forth, that can be made into weapons or crafted into carts or crafted into plows, that then can be used within your village, or you can trade with such a thing. Not all resources here will be able to be found within your region. The whole game is made up of multiple regions owned by different lords, and of course, everyone is looked over by said king. But when you fall into your region, you're not going to have everything that you need constantly. You'll have the raw basics, whether it's mining, food, wood, so on and so forth. But in terms of extra bits, you're going to have to import them from other regions, and that means making relations with people. This means that you're going to have to start trading, do livestock farming, build roads and connections, and of course, find allies that actually have goods that you want to trade with. The residential houses work a little bit like this. You have different homes for different sizes of areas, and they're all dictated by your little grid building system. The bigger the size, the more extra add-ons you're able to put in, whether it's a little bit for chicken coops or a little bit of allotment, so you can have some carrots and potatoes growing there. And of course, you can choose what vegetables you want to grow in each of these little plots. So every villager has their own little food pool as well that they can draw from. So you don't just have to rely from the hunters or the big farming plots and the industry outside. These are really nice little touches. Clicking on the buildings, you get to see inside them what's going on, whether they have enough food, whether they have enough water, whether they have enough firewood, and these can all be stocked up. They can be bought from the market that you can place down, and of course all your vendors will gain their resources from wholesale. People that are hunting, the people that are farming, the people that are getting wool will take them to the vendors that will then sell them onto your villagers. And these all come from the natural resources. But these natural resources aren't necessarily infinite, of course, in the way that it would be in real life. Mines will eventually run out. You'll have to work out a way to gather wood sustainably, continuously planting trees. Crops will be able to be constantly planted, but thinking about crop rotation and how the nutrients in the ground sustains that type of crop at that point in time. The game has dynamic weather systems with seasonal changes that will affect everything from growing crops to how well your people move throughout their villages, with rain, snow, fog, being able to turn the tide of how you actually live and fight in battles if your harvest fails that year. There's a lot of customization as well, not just within your villages, but designing your own coat of arms so you can actually get your cool little picture on your main vanguard lads, and customize the layout of your villages once again. But we've spoken a lot about what goes on in our town. What about the neighboring villages and the neighboring regions? Once again, trading through them is definitely possible, but you have to work on relations and diplomacy. Now, this is a thing that we've seen little of so far, and something that we didn't really get to check out within our version or our demo that we played a couple years ago. But you as a lord get some sort of renown. This is done through how you interact with people, the size of your villages, so on and so forth, and the wars that you fight. This will determine how much respect and your ability to trade and have diplomatic interactions with everybody else, whether you want to gain their resources or go and take some of their territory or fight in wars. And this is where the military comes in, a part that I think a lot of people are very interested in, because we haven't actually got a chance to really field some men on the battlefield yet, or work out how these RTS mechanics evolve. Some of the specialized buildings that you can put down can be archery ranges or barracks. These will be your production of troops, whether it is getting archers from just your peasant population or actually training up some heavily skilled swordsmen or even some vanguard. Now, you'll have specialized cavalry units that are just fighters in the battlefield, and they'll be your strongest lads. But just as it was back in the day, that's not going to be the bulk of your army. Most of them are just going to be villagers, whether it's blacksmiths, tanners, hunters that have just come to fight and defend their homeland. If you get attacked by bandits, which is something that can happen, they can come and steal your stuff and burn down your village. Your villagers themselves will pick up arms and try and fight them back. Or, of course, you can have your more specifically trained troops that will do that more effectively. But they're so much more expensive and more of a mid to later game add-on. So when you're actually going into the battlefield, a lot of it will be cheaper spearmen or basically trained archers that then can be leveled up through these barracks and archery ranges, so your peasants can now actually become more trained fighters. They won't necessarily be professional fighters like your small vanguard units. However, they will be more effective the more you upgrade them. And this goes into saying with the production, with the better weapons that you can make, the better armor that you can afford to give them as well. When it gets into the battles themselves, you have this over-the-top Total War style RTS battle mechanics with units of troops, whether it's infantry, archers, or cavalry. Being able to highlight them and drag them into certain positions, being able to move forward as one. You can even slowly move backwards and do controlled retreats with these sort of mechanics that have been added into the game. Terrain really comes into it, whether it's putting your infantry in forests to make archers less efficient, or even on top of hills to really dull those cavalry charges. Something that will be, I guess, surprisingly rare within a game that is a little bit more small scale to what Total War had to offer. Morale mechanics will be a factor. You have to keep an eye on your soldiers. A well-timed charge can actually break the enemy's spirit. So a surprise flank attack might be a good idea if you want to make them run away from battle. And this will affect everything that goes on in your village. Population, morale, how people work are all tied in between these battles and of course the city building or village building portions. If you lose a lot of people on the battlefield, your village is going to suffer. Men will have died and there'll be less people to work in the blacksmiths or hunting. You're then going to have to start to rebuild once again, and vice versa. You're being attacked. Okay, well, we don't have many people in our village because they've all died of starvation. How do we defend ourselves? These are two things that you're going to have to keep in mind and balance with each other, and some really, really nice details and some dynamic changes to something that we don't get in other games that perhaps like Total War that are on a bigger scale. Now, so far, there isn't much talk of anything from naval battles or even siege tactics. Sieges are not exactly a main focus here. You can build small forts and manors, which I'm assuming there will be some sort of interaction with in battles, especially if bandits are trying to burn them down, so on and so forth. But catapults, battering rams, trebuchets, nothing that's been spoken of so far. There is a lot of promise with that in the future, but I think the main focus is to get just a working village builder and RTS battler in the first place. And it looks like Slavic Magic and the team over at Hooded Horse have done a good job of that with the things that have been released so far. It'll be releasing on PC via Steam and Game Pass at launch on the 26th of April this year. And there have been rumors that it will be coming to Xbox One and Xbox Series X at a later date, since I think they had some sort of interaction with Microsoft. I also know that there's going to be RTX within the game, and Nvidia really helped these guys and supported them through it, so there will be RTX within the game. So hopefully it should look beautiful, but I mean, we've seen all the stuff so far that's come out. I am incredibly excited for Manor, and when you're watching this, it might already be out, and there'll be plenty of content on this channel, so make sure you stick around for that. It's been a long time coming, but it is finally here, and I cannot for one wait to start playing it.